I'm a type of person that's very pro taking action and not staying stuck, thinking things through for a million years. You know that about me. However, I have seen recently that the pendulum has swung the other side and people are just taking action like crazy and becoming a content machine, pumping content insanely, trying all the tactics, trying to get more sales. And the problem is that their messaging is lacking a very important key in their clarity piece. And without that clarity, they're not going to be able to convert, to get leads, to get sales. So we are fixing that today.
Do you want to be seen as the go-to in your industry, get more sales, easily attract new opportunities, but feel overlooked online? If so, you are in the right place. Hey, I'm Eugenia, but you can call me E. I'm a marketing strategist, a wife, and a new mom. I learned the secret of how to be seen as an authority and have people think of you for new opportunities and more clients. If you're ready to get clear on what makes your personal brand unique, build a magnetic presence online, and get more eyes on your business, this is your next move.
I have a wild analogy this week, so please bear with me. I'm now, of course, obsessed with everything parenting, and that includes discipline, even though my baby is only 7 months old at the time of this recording. But never is too early. Never is too early to learn all you want to learn about discipline and try to figure out what's your approach, all those good things. And something that my husband and we've landed on is that we want to discipline the heart, not the behavior. Of course, behavior is important, but we want to speak to the heart of the action. Like, the problem is not that you didn't pay attention or did what I told you to do. The problem is the disobedient heart, the rebellious heart. So that's kind of our approach that we are planning on using. Of course, keep us in prayers, because of course you know that sometimes you have the intentions in the world, and then in the moment, from everything I've seen with family and friends, like when the time comes, sometimes plans go out the window. But that's what we're planning so far. And when I say it's kind of an out there analogy, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't, because when it comes to our sales and the problems we're having with our business, it's kind of the same issue. Sometimes we have a behavioral problem with our business, like our business is not behaving the way we would like it to behave, and we try to fix it with tactics. And in the parenting analogy, like more parenting books and more parenting tips and tricks, and like how to have the perfect conversation and using the right words, and what's the right phrase for this situation, and all these things, which yes are important. So for business, yes, tactics are important, but if we don't go to really the source of the matter, we are not going to be able to move forward. So in the parenting analogy, if we don't go to the heart of the issue, why is this happening? Like, what is the center of this circumstance that's taking place? We are going to be patching holes that are going to be reappearing. So that's how I see in business the whole messaging clarity and clarity in general, and how it results in sales or lack thereof. Because the pattern I see is that your sales are down and you usually think, oh my gosh, it's my content, I need a new strategy, I need to redo my pillars. Maybe you're going to go into a binge of ChatGPT conversation to help you reframe your whole business, your whole, like your life, your pillars, everything. Or maybe you think that the algorithm has changed, which in all fairness, it has. That has been my experience for sure. Things have changed, but we tend to overemphasize the role of the algorithm, if that makes sense. If not, another thing I see a lot is that they think that the problem is the offer. And I did this for so long, so I completely understand. I used to think, oh, the problem is my offer. That's why it's not converting. Let me redo it. And I would spend months redoing my offer. I now would land with a very similar version of the offer I previously had. So in my case, the first time I launched anything for personal brand, it was called From Expert to Leader. I believe that was like the first name. And the whole idea was to help you become or be seen as an expert. And it was a whole thing on like defining your messaging, your archetypes, the whole thing. I like that wasn't selling, and I was like, oh, it is definitely 100% the offer. I redid it and I did more of a content program, and it was a program on how to create content to be seen as a leader and have people think of you. And I followed down that path until I realized you keep having the same, like different versions of the same thing. Maybe it's not an offer problem. Maybe it is a messaging problem. So I saw that happening for me. And the moment I stopped changing my offer and focused on really refining and getting clear on my messaging, things started changing and momentum started happening. It starts accelerating little by little. And how do you get clear on your messaging? Of course, messaging is not isolated. I see your brand messaging as a whole context of brand direction and having clarity on your brand. And that starts with you being brutally honest about who you are and what's the version of yourself you want to bring into your business. Because I am all for authenticity, but we don't want to bring 100% of ourselves into our business. We want to be strategic and make sure that the things we are discussing in our business and the version of ourselves we are bringing into our business makes us feel safe, and we're not discussing things that are raw and where we are too vulnerable yet. So what version of ourselves do we want to bring? Do you want to bring the friend, like the person who's very friendly? Do you want to bring the strategist? Do you want to bring the educator? Where do you want to land and where do you want to hone in? Usually that's going to be where you feel more comfortable, because again, it has to go hand in hand with your authenticity, but that's something that you have to have this clarity on. Then we talk about your message. And message, I have a whole episode on my clear framework and to get clear on your message. But what I see missing a lot is that you don't have a clear brand narrative. And I do this a lot, brand narrative maps. That is what connects that clarity in your identity and your vision and your strengths with your brand. That is the missing piece. You need to have that brand narrative that talks about who you are, your strengths, your personality you want to bring, connects to your vision, connects to the change you want to see in the world, connects to how more in the sense of your ideas, how are they different to what's out there. And then from there, we get to be very clear on the brand messaging that we are having. We do have space for the intangible. We do have space for the philosophical. And I love discussing those things with my clients because that's what gets them excited at the end of the day to like get out of bed and like do the work they're doing. So we do have that space. You do need to have that space on why are you doing what you're doing? How is everything connected? Like having that brand narrative map, top shape, but then simplifying everything, making it super customer facing friendly, where it's super clear what they're getting, very specific, what is the problem that you're solving, when you're not being completely abrupt and telling them that you are going to help them change the world through this service, even though you know that's the potential that your service, that your offer has. So the point that's missing, where clarity is missing in your brand message, that's disconnecting you from potential clients, is that there's no coherence. Coherence is a thing, is the gap here. Because there needs to be coherence between who you are and all those intangibles and the clear brand message that's very tangible, that's very specific. And until you get that coherence between the vision, the intangible, who you are, and the tangible, the specific, the transformation, the thing that has a commercial value, you are not going to get sales. If you only focus on the tangible, like I do your website for you and that's it, and you don't have nothing behind it, you don't have depth, you are going to be a commodity. People are going to be shopping for prices. That's the typical Fiverr designer who does a logo and people say, oh, I need someone to do a logo for me who does it for cheaper, and that's who I'm going to go with, versus the brand designer who creates an experience. And yes, they give you a logo, And yes, of course, the price is an important factor to consider. I'm not that naive to say that price doesn't matter, but we are not as sensitive to price when we have a provider, when we have a vendor, a creator, a consultant, whatever you want to call yourself, that is taking us to something bigger than the tangible result, but that also has a commercial value for the transformation. Whether it's this logo is going to help you make more money, but then it's also going to make you feel connected to your brand, but it's also going to make you amplify your business and your impact. So you see how we start with, I give you a logo that's going to make you make more money, that's going to make you make more of an impact, that's going to make you feel more connected to your brand, because you're going to feel more connected to your brand. You're going to show up in a larger capacity. So we are expanding our world and the vision of our world, but we have to start in our communication with something very tangible. But we get to that tangible place when we start in the construction aspect within ourselves. So we start constructing internally what's our vision, what we want, what's the narrative that connects that vision to our brands, and then specifically, what's the messaging? What's the clear messaging that we have? And I have a clear framework for that we're gonna communicate with. And that's where we do our marketing, and that's how we use our messaging to get more sales. If you're not connected, that's gonna take away from your conviction. Literally, your breathing, and well, I say this as a podcaster, and I've been podcasting for almost 3 years now, and I have noticed in the times where I feel a little shaky about my brand, where my breathing is disconnected, it's like holding on to every word, or I'm just like not in a good posture, because that lack of conviction shows in your physiology. You can fake it until you make it all you want, but your physiology is gonna betray you. Trust me. And that lack of conviction, or people, they might not be, savants in understanding breathing patterns, but there's going to be something about you, your posture, your breathing, your tone of voice, well, your consistency, or being like very something that's very tangible, that people are going to feel unsure about. They're going to feel unsafe, because they're going to notice that you are not safe, because you are not being clear. Confused people don't buy. So remember that you need to be coherent and you need to be clear, because confused people don't buy. Buyers today are too sophisticated. Even if they're spending $50, they're too sophisticated. If you're not clear, if you lack that conviction, they're gonna smell the BS. So spend some time doing that connection, connecting all those points, from your identity to your vision to your narrative of how that connects to your brand, to then a very clear brand message. And if you don't know where everything lands, or where you land, or exactly what's missing from your brand, you are a great candidate to book a brand positioning audit, because that's exactly what we do in an hour of one-on-one work. We look at your messaging, your vision, we look at your communication, if you're being coherent. Where are the gaps that are keeping you from being seen and thought of as an expert? So people want to work with you, so people understand your message and they take action if the message is for them. So the brand positioning audit is going to be your next best step if this has resonated with you and you're still unsure on where you land on this spectrum. You can go to eugeniawoo.com/brand. That's EUGENIAWOO.com/BRAND. And that's going to be linked in the show notes. I would love to work with you. As I said, we can really figure this out in an hour and get you moving forward. So until then, stay clear, stay connected, stay coherent, cohesive with your brand. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. You don't need more tactics. You just need clear messaging and clear coherence in your communications. See you soon. Un beso.
I hope you loved today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and send it to someone who's ready to be seen as the go-to in their industry? Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I love reading your comments. They remind me of those little notes you would send your friends in high school, you know? Okay, see you back here soon with the next episode. Un beso.